I logged my food for 900 days in a row. And here's what happened. So in this video, I'm gonna give you a rundown of the truth behind calorie counter apps, what ones out there that are most popular, share my personal experience after logging for 900 days in a row, and finally, I'm gonna let you know if I think that you should use the calorie counter app, and if not, what I recommend instead. So be sure to stick around to the end to get the list of tools that you need. So like I said, I logged my food for 900 days in a row, and that was just in a row. That is not including the whole time that I did it when I missed a day or two. It was actually more like 5 solid years, which is 1,825 days. That's a whole lot of using a calorie counter app. That's a whole lot of time. Okay, let's get cozy. So let's start with, what are calorie counter apps? So calorie counter apps, typically they are free. They are an app that allows you to input the food that you ate, and it will break down the nutrition info of it and give you macros, calories, those sorts of things of the foods that you've eaten. Most of the time it will give you a goal. Either this is something that you can input, but a lot of times it will just have like an auto goal, either a number of calories or a macro breakdown. And I will get into how this is actually decided later on, if it's actually even accurate, so be sure to stick around for that. So in these calorie counter apps, it's up to you to remember what you've eaten and put it in the app for it to give you that nutritional analysis. Some of the most popular calorie counter apps out there are MyFitnessPal, Spark People, Calorie King, Fat Secret, and Noom also uses calorie counting in their app. I have a full video on my review of Noom, so I'll link to that up there. Be sure to check it out. I ended up getting kicked out, but that's a story for another time. I go into it in the video. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so my experience with using calorie counter apps. Now, I started logging my calories when I was about a sophomore in college, and I started becoming aware of calories and being more mindful of them about my freshman year in college. So this was a little bit after that. And like I said, I ended up using one for about 5 years. It started off really innocent. It started off with me just looking up, okay, how many calories are in the donut that I got from the cafeteria that morning? How many calories were in the no-bake cookie that I kept finding myself grabbing on my way out? Then I started seeing that. And so I was like, well, how many calories am I eating a day? So then I started logging everything. And at first it was just a gist, okay, let me think back. This is what I ate that day. But it quickly became very, very obsessive. I spent so much of my day on the app. I used MyFitnessPal, and I spent so much of my day logging my food in there. It irks me to think about how much time I missed out on in my life, but whatever, I'm not gonna dwell on that. We can only focus forward. So it really became obsessive for me. I was counting the amount of carrots that I ate. I was trying to be good and stick to that 1,200 calories a day that MyFitnessPal gave me. Now, this is utter bogus because no one, not a doctor, not a dietitian, not an app definitely, can ever tell you exactly the amount of calories that your body needs per day. It ebbs and flows, it fluctuates, and it's never going to be the same day to day. So the idea that someone can give you a set calorie goal and say this is what you need to eat per day is bogus, because one day you're going to be overeating and the next day you're going to be undereating. And that is just going to lead to the restrict binge cycle, because your body is going to see, oh my gosh, I didn't get enough food that day, so I'm going to really, really want food the next day. And you're probably going to go over that limit. And that is going to lead you to feel guilty. And that's going to lead you to restrict. And then that's going to lead you to biologically want more food because you didn't get enough. And it's just this endless cycle. So those numbers, they're not accurate. No one can tell you the number you need. That is why it is so important to listen to your body. And I have a whole video on how to do that so you can naturally regulate your calorie intake based on what your body needs and what your body is asking for. I'll link to that video there. It's Listen to Your Body 101. You can get the full details there. Plus, I'm a very, very competitive person. So if an app were to tell me I could only have 1,200 calories a day, I would do my darndest to make sure it was under that. And then I would feel so accomplished. Then I'd try to push it a little bit further the next day and say, maybe I can beat that day and eat even less. That spiraled downward. I got to the point to be honest with you, where I was eating about a meal's worth of calories for an entire day. And I'm talking like a small meal, not like you're going to like pasta dinner and having a giant meal. It like makes me hungry to think about it. Basically, calorie counting apps are what developed my eating disorder. I think it was really the perfect storm, the environment that I was in, my personality, and it was just something that got so out of control. And this happens to a lot of people, that it starts so innocently. You just want to know the information of one thing, and then you start logging, and then it gets out of hand. And before you freaking know, it's been 900 days in a row. I still remember seeing that pop up on my phone, and it like made me sick. That was a really, really big red flag that, okay, Colleen, you gotta change something because something is seriously wrong here. You're spending so much of your life on these calorie counter apps, you're not living it. Or are you living it in a place where you feel like you have energy because you're hardly eating anything? Ugh, I can get so angry about it. Okay, so I know that not everyone is going to develop an eating disorder from seeing that nutrition information or using a calorie counter app. I get that. But I can also say that I didn't think it was gonna happen to me either. And I'll be honest with you, I would not wish an eating disorder on my worst enemy. Not even an eating disorder, even struggling with food. Like, there's so much more to life than thinking about food. I don't want anyone to miss out on that or feel caged in by their food rules or become obsessed. Just don't do it to yourself. You can't unlearn that nutrition information. So drilled into your head. So even after I got the app off my phone and I stopped logging my food into my fitness pal, I was counting calories in my head. It takes a lot of trying to honestly rewire your brain to stop counting calories. I teach the girls in my membership how to do this with mantras, affirmations, and really journaling, rewiring that brain to get yourself to not automatically count those calories. I get how hard that is. And it takes a lot of energy to stop doing that. I'll link to a blog post that I have all on my top intuitive eating affirmations. It can really help you with this process. So anytime you're tempted to count those calories in your head, use one of those. Basically, take your brain and take it down a different road so that it doesn't count those calories automatically. And that is repeated effort to make that happen. It's not easy. To be completely honest with you, if I wanted to count up all the calories that I ate today, I could. Because like I said, you can't unlearn that nutrition information. I could at least get a really good estimate, but I have no desire to do that. I worked on myself and understanding how I actually want to live and how to live a life of no food rules. I'll link to a video that I do have all on my story with disordered eating, and you can watch that there. I go into a lot more detail about how this all kind of developed even before and during the calorie counting, but we'll stick with just the calorie counting for this video. So today I make that conscious choice to not count calories. And it is that, a conscious choice, because that information is still in my head, but I have no need, no desire to tap into it. Now, I want to be very clear that I do not think that nutrition information is bad. I think it can actually be really good. So here's an example. Say you're in the freezer aisle. This has actually happened to me. You are in the freezer aisle at the grocery store and you see 2 freezer meals. You need something quick for dinner and you're deciding between the 2. Now, you could look at the nutrition label here and say, this one has not a lot of calories in it, probably not going to keep me satisfied. I'm going to choose the higher calorie item. That's helpful. Now, another option is this one has like very little protein in it. I know for me, this is about getting in touch with your body and learning to listen to it. That protein helps me feel satisfied at a meal. So if protein is one, then you say, this one doesn't have a lot of protein. I'm probably going to pick the one that has some more protein in it because that helps me to feel satisfied. But it's also about knowing balance. So knowing that if the mac and cheese one is the one that I'm craving, is the one that I really want, even though it might not have a bunch of protein, it's okay to choose that one. You don't want to make yourself feel deprived. It's really about this balance and there's no right or wrong answer. Nutrition info is just a piece of that puzzle on making your food decision. There's so many factors that go into it beyond just nutrition. Enjoyment, satisfaction, all of those things. Obviously, I'm a registered dietitian. I don't think nutrition info is bad. I think it can be used for good. But the key is not to get obsessed. And the key is also to know yourself enough to know if you are getting obsessed and to cut that crap out. Okay, so now my recommendation for calorie counter apps, if I think you should use them, and what tools I think you should use. This probably doesn't come as a surprise to you, but I don't recommend that you use a calorie counter app. Even if you're saying I'm using a calorie counter app to make sure I'm getting enough, you can make sure you're getting enough food by listening to your body. You can make sure you're not getting too much food by listening to your body. You can make sure you're getting the right amount of food by listening to your body. Nothing is too much, nothing is too little. Listening to your body is going to tell you what feels good, not an app. An app is never going to know your life. And again, I get that not everyone is going to become obsessive. And bottom line, you have the right to do you and do what works for you and do what makes you feel good. Just because this is what I think and this is what I preach and this is what I teach in my membership does not mean that you have to agree with this. That's the beauty of life. We all have the choice to do what we want to do. This is my opinion from my personal experience and as my expertise as a dietitian. Now, the fact that I don't think you should use a calorie counter app does not mean I don't think you should care about nutrition. I think it can be done in a gentle way, like that freezer meal example. But if you're coming from a place of having very, very heavy food rules, nutrition, I think it's really important to note this, it does need to take a back seat. Now, this is really talked about in the Intuitive Eating book. Highly, highly recommend you read that book if you're looking to kind of dive more into that. I have a video all on my best intuitive eating book recommendations, so take a look at that video. I talk more about what you can find in those books there, but basically it does not mean that you have to put nutrition on the back burner forever. But as you're learning to listen to your body, you need to think about more than just the nutrition facts. You need to find satisfaction, enjoyment, your hunger cues. It all makes a difference. I think that a really great tool to use is the hunger scale. Fabulous tool to make sure that you're getting enough food that makes your body feel good without going from one extreme to the other, knowing, okay, this is the amount of food that makes my body feel good, not too full, not starved. I think that a food and mood journal is also super helpful. Basically, it's just kind of creating a reflection on the foods that made you feel good and maybe the foods that didn't make you feel good. Maybe the amounts of food that made you feel good and the amounts of food that didn't make you feel good. So I think that doing that is a really great way to get in touch with yourself and really understand the way that different foods make you feel. Now, an app that I have used is the Peace with Food app. Now, this is an app that can kind of track your hunger and fullness. You can make notes of the things that make you feel good and the things that made you maybe not feel good. So that is a more tech savvy way to use kind of a food and mood journal. I'll link to it in the description if you're curious about that. But basically, I do not think you need to use a calorie counter app. And to be honest, I would not recommend it. I would recommend this little toolkit for you instead. But you have full right to do what you want to do. That is the beauty of life. This is just my opinion. I hope that sharing my experience with logging food for 900 days in a row using a calorie counter app was helpful to you to kind of give you insight on if you should use one or if you should not use one. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to hit subscribe to the channel. If you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? And be sure to hit the little bell to be notified when new videos are uploaded every single week on Sunday. See you later.